You're killing me. Okay. Tess, please save me here. I'm actually physically pained right now. Oh.
Okay. I have another question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes! Perfect!
Yay!
Anthony, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for taking the time out of your, I imagine, extraordinarily busy schedule to join us and answer some questions on behalf of ourselves and the community today.
Absolutely. It's a little busy, but we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. So.
Oh, thank you. It's a true honor. How just to like break into things, how has everything been going? How has your trip so far?
It's really awesome. You know, we just got done at the Xbox briefing. We got to see our new trailer, which was really, really awesome, especially in that environment, seeing it. And then we got to see the Commander Lilith announced and dropped at the same time, which is always something that we've always wanted to do. Something I've always personally wanted to do is kind of that. It's funny that they kind of put it in. Well, wait, there's more.
Yeah.
I really appreciated how that came down. They were just like, oh, by the way, we've got still more things for you. Just throwing stuff all over the place. And then we got to have the full reveal trailer here on the channel, which was super neat and we're entirely grateful for as well. I will actually throw it over to Tess if you would like to take the first question.
Sure. So where does the story of Borderlands 3 pick up in relation to the ending of 2 with the DLC now?
So actually, what we just got done seeing and seeing was released, the Commander Lilith DLC. It picks up based on the events that happened there, right? In relation to Borderlands 2, however, it's about 6 years later. But getting into that Commander Lilith DLC will really help you understand where we're at, where Lilith is at, where the Crimson Raiders are at, and what's happening with the different characters that we've come to know and love, leading up to the point where we are in Borderlands 3.
Excellent.
Very cool.
I'm so overwhelmed by everything that has gone on. So we've gone on such an amazing ride with these characters, and I'm so happy that we finally get to see where everybody's at again and kind of go forward from there. Going forward with that, kind of bridging the gap between the old and the new now, what are some new guns, if you can elaborate on some of those, and more importantly for I think some of the older guys, what are some of the returning guns that you're kind of excited to share? So we've got like both ends, and that was because of what we saw in LA, but what are you like super excited that we get to see now in terms of fun projectile weapons?
So really, I guess one of the things that you mentioned, being back at the gameplay reveal event, the Atlas weapons. So those are the ones where, you know, there's different types that you can shoot out some type of tracking, and then all of your smart bullets will then home in on the enemies and destroy them. So you can do all kinds of fun stuff. Like if enemies run away, they really can't get away from that. You hit them around the corners and then over the top and all kinds of crazy stuff. I personally love Jacob's weapons. So, you know, shoot them as fast as you can pull the trigger. That's my thing. I'm a Texas boy, so being able to see and do all things is really excites me.
Oh my God, Jacob's weapons. I'm tempted to just wonder what's your favorite Jacob's weapon then? Like, are you more of a sniper? Or are you more of like a hip firing? Like, do you like the law?
Classic pistol.
There it is. I had a feeling just by the way you approached the question. Nah.
So the gameplay that we just showed with Mose on Eden 6 a little while ago, she ends with a pistol, and that was intentional. Whenever I was helping those guys work on that stuff, because it's kind of the thing. I mean, it fits with the theme also. You know, we're in the Jacobs Manor. You know, we're heading towards the Jacobs Manor. We're on their land. So it feels really good to kind of use those manufacturers in the home of the manufacturer.
Oh my God.
Cool.
If you would please, us.
What can we expect of new raid bosses compared to old ones? What mechanics are in place? For example, phases, positioning, as older bosses tend to rely on novas and bullet reflection.
So I can speak to bosses in general. You know, what we wanted to do, just like everything else in this game, is take the foundation and the formula that we and that the fans have come to know and love, and expand on that and make those things better. So with bosses, it's more about making them bigger, better. The whole point of a boss fight is to test you up to that point. It's kind of like the final exam of that section, right? The different types of equipment or gear or loot or things that you've learned over that course of time, we want to make sure that you're tested during that boss fight. And so there are different phases, different mechanics, different mobility, things that change and evolve throughout the fights. And Matt Cox and Josh Jeffco and those guys that work with the enemy team and with the boss team have done a really, really good job. And I'm really happy to have been able to help out on a couple of those things that we can't really talk about yet. But
of course,
they're really. And I think that everyone who loves big boss fights and loves that type of a challenge will really enjoy the ones that we have in Borderlands 3.
Very awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, one of my favorite things in Borderlands 2 specifically was the boss fights. A lot of the crux of my personal stream for a very long time was I would just run around and I would fight. There was Master G was probably my favorite one. So a lot of people give grief to Master G because they think it's a little bit of a different kind of concept because it's not just shooting at a boss until it falls over and maybe they throw something additional at you like a couple ads or something like that. There's an actual mechanic to it where you kill a worm and then you have to drag G to it and you have to position him. And that's kind of why when I thought this question through, I wanted to see where your headspace was at in terms of finding ways to make bosses more vulnerable while testing players in terms of what they need to be doing in order to actually take this boss down besides just point and shoot. So
that's right. Yeah, and there are things like what you mentioned. We've added mobility. You'll have some bosses where you'll get to use that. We have the different elements. We have bosses that you want to be strategic and be able to use that against and be able to take them out with the tools that you've been given and the things that you've learned up to that point. So there will be more of that type of gameplay.
That's very exciting, especially, like I said, for somebody who really thoroughly enjoys the boss fighting aspects of the game, which hopefully... What's that?
Those guys who've been working on it are really passionate about that too, and I'm personally a boss fight type of guy. I like playing games with big, bad, challenging bosses. So it's really cool to see them work and to see the passion that they put into creating those and making them challenging and showing off all of the awesome things that now we have for the Vault Hunters to be able to do.
It's super exciting. And then I just wanted to mention this for everybody watching at home too. I believe there is a raid boss in the DLC that just dropped too. So I don't know anything about it. I don't want to spoil anything about it, but I just wanted to get that out there. If there are other raid boss fans, definitely get the DLC as soon as you can because I'm sure they've worked on something great for us to be challenged by. So, cool. That actually brings up a next good question that I wanted to talk about a little bit. Bosses drop loot, and usually they have very specialized loot. In Borderlands 2, sometimes it's a little difficult to farm certain named mobs, farm certain bosses. It requires you, for example, to have to leave the game, or in the case of Pyro Pete, in order to most efficiently streamline the process, you're often... I drop literally the elevator on myself so I can spawn real quick and run back down. How has the process in Borderlands 3 been streamlined in terms of being able to farm these bosses more efficiently? Will players then have a method of farming that will prevent themselves from having to exit and restart? Because especially for people who play with other players, it becomes a challenge because they have to then have everybody jump back in. And it makes it a little bit more difficult. So...
Right. So I think to answer the broader question, we do have rerunnable bosses, as people have come to expect, because we want people to be able to go after those different types of challenges. But we also have different ways for you to go and collect those different types of loot, like the crew hunts and things like that, where you can go after certain types of enemies, and they leave different types of loot as well. As far as how that conflicts or improves on Borderlands 2. Like I said, we took those things, we went back, saw what made Borderlands 2 really well and the way that we were able to do that stuff, and kind of expanded on that so that it's a much more fun experience and makes it to where you guys really want to jump in and try to go and get those things over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So in the reveal event, we saw a few of the different worlds that we get to travel to on the Sanctuary 3 ship, and we know there are multiple worlds. I don't know how many. And one thing that I'm personally really curious about is how big are they in comparison to like what we've seen of the world in Borderlands 2. I know the scope of Borderlands 3 is much greater, but what can you tell us, if anything, about the size of each planet that we're going to be playing on?
So I don't want to spoil too much and get into the nitty gritty of those things. But yeah, like you said, we have, it's much bigger. It's a much bigger game. You get to go to more places. What we're showing off this week down at our Borderlands 3 booth is Eden 6. So you'll get to see a piece of what is happening in that theater presentation. Plus we showed off some Mo's gameplay on Eden 6. But there are quite a few different places and some places that we haven't shown off yet that'll be pretty exciting. So I don't want to spoil too much of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. I'm going to go ahead. So for those of you who don't know, Borderlands does have an official Discord. And over the past couple of days, we were encouraging certain community members to submit some questions. And I'm going to take this opportunity now to go ahead and ask one on behalf of the community. So, member of the community, Croons, asks, how big is Moses' mech really? And can you spawn it anytime, anywhere?
It's gigantic. I don't know exactly how big it is, but maybe it's twice the height of her character. Mm-hmm. It's huge. But you can spawn it in most places. We did a really good job. The level design team, Graham Simmons and his team, they made sure, and it's a really daunting task whenever you look at it. You have this thing that you can hit a button or however she does it and just spawns and digitizes this mech. How can we make it to where we can put that in, say, the interior of a building or things like that? So you can't spawn it at any place, because there's some places you can crouch under, right? But those guys did a really good job of making sure that most of the places and all of the combat places that you can spawn them at.
That's fantastic.
Cool.
I was about to say, I'm sure that comes as a relief to a lot of people because there are games out there where you have like these cool things, but when you summon it, it'll desummon real quick when it realizes there's a conflict in between the environment and the actual thing that you're trying to do. So hearing at least that has been taken into consideration, because with those games it doesn't feel like it is, should help alleviate a lot of people's fears, because that's probably one of the biggest barriers to Mo's, since the gameplay seems to revolve very heavily, and rightfully so, around her mech.
That's right, and the team did a really good job. What you'll actually get, and what the people on the floor will get to find out this week, is that whenever you try to do it inside, like one of these crates, or if you're in a really tight spot, it will actually prompt you and say, "Hey, you can't spawn it right here." But if you just move a little ways, then there's, like I said, most of the places you're able to spawn it in, definitely in whenever you're in combat.
Awesome, perfect.
Oh,
cool.
So there's a lot of people wondering if we'll see dueling back in Borderlands 3 for PvP fun.
Yes, dueling is back.
Dueling is something that I was definitely curious about. It leads kind of into where I want to go next with this. Was there any consideration to PvP in Borderlands beyond dueling this time around, or just in general in the series?
No, it really, through and through, Borderlands is a campaign-based co-op experience that we want people to be able to explore and loot and go after those bosses and things like that. So PvP was never anything that we considered.
What brought the 4 Vault Hunters that are the playable characters that we start with in Borderlands 3 to Pandora? Like, how did they end up there?
That is a great question that me, not a narrative guy, does not actually know the exact answer to. But as we start to see, the Calypso Twins, their objective is to open all of the vaults and get this ultimate power. They're this power-hungry team that is trying to open all of these vaults, and the Vault Hunters come together so that they can try and stop that from happening. As to how they got onto Pandora, I actually don't know. But I'm glad that they're there.
Me too.
What is it? The old just in the nick of time?
Yeah.
My only understanding is the only thing I think I grasped from like LA was when they put on the big trailer right after Randy did the big reveal and everything. Amara just mentions to Lilith something about perhaps putting out a call and summoning her somehow. So I can't wait to kind of see how that ties into the overarching story. How did she know how to reach out to Amara? What's the deal? So that'll be pretty cool to see how it kind of comes together. I guess we're kind of getting this in the DLC, but it's still worth asking right now. So we see Lilith has now taken all of the steps to kind of take over as commander of the Crimson Raiders. Why has she chosen to step up at this time, and what currently in the story has become of Brick and Mordecai?
So, well, without getting too much into the spoilers, right? Well, we know that with speaking of spoilers, with the passing of Roland,
it's okay. We'll have milkshakes in his honor very soon.
She has to step up and she has to become the commander, and she's coming to grips with how do I do that. So whenever we talk about the other characters who are there, playing through that game, you will be able to see what is happening with some of those characters like Mordecai and Brick, and how that kind of shapes them and evolves them into what we end up seeing in Borderlands 3.
Excellent.
Very cool. What eventually led to the... I can't read it. Thank you. What eventually led to the decision, even going so far back as 7 years ago, to take the series off-world and visit other planets? What was the basis for wanting to explore the galaxy and travel around?
Well, Borderlands is an expanding game, right? Pandora is a great planet. We get to see that in Borderlands 3 also. But even at the end of Borderlands 2, we see there are more vaults. They're across the galaxies and across the universe. So I think it kind of started with that, and I'm really glad that we did that, because you get to see a lot of awesome new environments that are really different from one another in the way that you interact with them, and the different enemies and creatures and things like that. But yeah, there's vaults everywhere. So we need to try and do what we can to save or stop the imminent threat from getting in and opening all of those vaults.
So cool.
That, of course, being the Calypso Twins, and I obviously I don't want to betray anything by saying it, but I'm thinking in my head about what would happen if a vault did open up and one of the twins was actually able to take those powers. It's weird to think about and conceptualize, so I can't wait to see where we kind of go with the series going forward with everything. We're going to take another community question here from G Tarzan 90. I like that name quite a bit. G Tarzan 90 asks, why did you give each playable character 3 action skills with perks instead of just keeping it at 1?
Well, having 3 is much better than 1, right?
Of course.
So to expand on that, it really does. Jokes aside, it goes back to what I was talking about in the beginning, where we take the formula, we take the foundation that we know works, and expand on that. And that's something that Paul Sage and the team has done a really good job of doing. Is we have 1 action skill, and those trees are really good, but now several members are able to slot 2. Like Mose, she has 2 hard points, and she's able to take each of these individual, like her grenades or her railgun or her minigun, and you can swap them around. So that feels really cool. It feels natural too. But we found out at the gameplay reveal event, Zane, this operative character, he's able to sacrifice a grenade for a second skill, and you see how whenever you're playing on the field, it doesn't feel like a forced thing, or it doesn't feel like something that's just, oh, well, we wanted more, so let's just put more. It actually works and makes sense for the characters as well. So I think that that, along with, it's just cool to blow a whole bunch of stuff up more, and 3 is much better than 1.
It's funny you use the term hardpoint. The first place my mind went to was Mech Warrior, and all I could think about was just how cool it would be. And it's basically what you're doing. You're able to switch out your hardpoints, and like you know what? Looking at it, it kind of looks a little Mad Catty. Like now, I can just imagine stomping around the battlefield in Moses' mech, just like Iron Bear's just firing off laser cannons, and it's got a lot of the same mechanics that you would see in a game like that. So you guys have really made it difficult to pick a main. We have so many people who... It's impossible. We have so many people who come in every day and they go, hey, Tess, hey, Mitsu, hey, Baru, like all of the stream team, who are you going to pick as your starting character? And you think you look at the character that you have an idea, but you don't. You guys have created 4 characters that are so unique, but have such flexible play styles. And that's just from looking at it. Getting to play it is amazing.
Thanks. I mean, and that's part of the goal, right? You don't want to be able to see a lineup and say, okay, well, it's obvious we should be this, right? So Jet Surratt and Ben Gettleman, Tommy Westerman, these guys back there in Frisco who came up with and kind of did the balancing and the checking to see what characters work really well. They have made it really difficult. Even for myself, like I'm a Siren guy, shout out Maya.
I love your shirt. Awesome.
Is somebody who I usually play with. It is super easy for me to jump in and be like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to play with this character for the next few hours because they're just so fun. Like all of them, they're all fun. There's nothing that makes me want to lean more towards one than the other. Other than, like I said, my personal bias. So I love Siren. So I'm going to play with Amara first. But jumping in and being able to play with Mose or being able to play with Zane is really awesome, and it's fun every single time that I play.
You're hitting all my happy points right now. You're a man after my own heart, because that's where I was. Everybody was like, Mitsu, who are you gonna play first? Amara, are you kidding me? And then I played Zane, and I went, oh no, I can't decide anymore. Rip everything.
Yep.
So, it's been wonderful kind of watching that unfold and really seeing those hard questions kind of being answered sorta in that way.
I saw Amara and I was like, of course Siren, because Maya main. But then I saw Flack with all of the cool beasts. And then I saw Mose with that incredible mech, and Zane with all of his abilities. And I have no idea who I'm going to start with anymore, honestly. It's so awesome. That's so awesome that there's so much variety.
So moving forward, this is a question that has been asked a lot because there's a lot of concern. And Borderlands 2, if I recall, one of the issues was that it was a little restricted based on previous console technology. And so memory was limited, and so that's why in Borderlands 2, you have a very limited bag space, and you have a very limited bank space. So if specifics can't be provided, I completely understand, but we're kind of looking for a general idea. What's the max bank space that we're currently looking at? What's the max backpack space we're currently looking at? And is it going to be far more generous than what we were currently what we have been looking at for the past 7 years?
So there are still things that options that we're weighing and things that we want to be able to tweak, and that's actually what we're doing now. So I don't know the exact number. It is generous. We do have other ways to make sure that you are able to keep the things that you have, like the player bank and the player's cores. We also have, if you remember seeing the Sanctuary 3 video, where you can actually kind of put some of your favorite weapons up on a placard. You can do that as well. So we don't have that definitive number right now, but I think whenever the game comes out, everyone will be pleased.
Okay, that's probably going to come as an extreme relief, because a lot of people were drawing attention to that as a concern for a game where you want to be able to hold on to this loot. People were like, I wish I had the space for all of these guns that I want to have, and they want to be able to like get it on. Some people have said, oh, you make a mule. People want to be able to hold on to it on that character because they're very protective of that character, and so it's exciting to know that at least that was something that was a concern of the dev team, and that you guys are definitely focused and working on that as well.
What's the road forwards for Borderlands? What are the highlights and features of this content cycle, and what's the vision for the series beyond the first 4 planned DLCs? Like, what does the future of Borderlands look like after?
Well, right now we're concentrating and making sure that we have a really nice, polished, strong game before we really worry about anything that's going on with post-launch content. But like you said, we do have the 4 main, DLCs as people have come and known. But there is basically, if you played Borderlands 2 and you understand the type of content that we did there, you can expect something similar in Borderlands 3.
Very cool.
That's good. So that sounds like a very exciting way to kind of put that there is a plan going forward, but right now we're focused, but we're going to get there. That's good.
There's always different ideas and thoughts, and we always want to think about those things. But of course, we want to focus and make sure that you guys really enjoy the experience on September 13th before we start thinking about things that are after that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine not enjoying that. Just the little bit that we got to play at the reveal literally has all of us in withdrawal. Like, our team Discord is basically a Borderlands 3 where is it support group. It's awesome.
Hopefully the DLC is like a good nicotine patch for now, though. Keeping us off the cravings for just a little bit longer, because we're almost there. We're almost there.
Yeah. It's it'll set you up. You guys got to go and play and hands on, and we know some of what's going on, what the stakes are in the story. You go play Commander Lilith, you'll get to see what got us to that point, where we were starting, and it's free. Like, it's free.
There's no reason not to, and it's quality. Like Gearbox Quebec, I believe the team was.
Speaking of which, yes, those guys absolutely knocked it out of the park. Those guys have been nothing but awesome. They're Canadian and we're here in Texas, but we are one team and completely trusted and worked with those guys tightly, especially the narrative teams. Those guys did an outstanding job, and we're really proud. I know that they're really proud of what everyone's getting to play right now.
Yeah,
cool.
It's so awesome. It really, really is. To have more Borderlands 2 content now to enjoy is incredible. To know what happens, to have a bridge to Borderlands 3, they did an amazing job.
Yeah.
This one's a really heartfelt question. I probably should have asked it a little while ago, but we're going to cycle back to it because it is one of my favorites. And I am a bit biased because I probably would not have been here if not for Master G. Will there be any returning bosses?
We'll just have to wait and see.
Ooh. Oh, gee. I'll take that as a sign of good hope, maybe. So.
I'm going to ask another of the community questions. Sir Puddington asks, will there be loyalty rewards for playing previous games? So will anything carry over if you played a previous game? So
Borderlands 3 is an entirely new game, right? But we do have what we're offering is the VIP rewards, which is totally free. If you follow along and you're watching awesome influencers like you guys, or if you're doing watching the trailers and being a part of that, you get different weapons and skins and different things like that will unlock for free whenever you get the game and whenever you're able to start playing Borderlands whenever it drops in September.
So cool.
So I'm trying to just visualize exactly what that would look like, but I imagine we have the model in place right now for the VIP program, and they'll probably just expand on that because what was it? It was just released What is it? They're calling it Season 1, I believe, of the VIP program, that you can just randomize a selection for just a random legendary, just for free, because you want it. So I imagine it'll probably be something very similar to that going forward and kind of expanding on that randomization model, at least for a little while.
That's right, and we also have a few things that will hit each of these individual beats leading up to launch, where if you're participating and you're collecting those points, you'll be able to go in and use those points to get different things, like I said, different skins and things like that for the characters that you won't know what character you want to play because it's really hard for you to choose, right?
Exactly.
One.
Oh, man. Okay, so will there be any features and functionality in the game for alternative game modes? So one thing that the community has done, and it's really added to the longevity of Borderlands, is we've kind of created game modes that have had self-imposed restrictions. Speedrunners, obviously, that's been a big thing in any community. We've done our one life runs, which is kind of our hardcore mode. What we call allegiance runs, which I was just looking at Moses' skill tree. She would be excellent at an allegiance run because you essentially pledge allegiance to one of the weapon manufacturers, and you kind of run with that. Is there any kind of like official support planned, or is it just kind of we'll continue with our community aspect behind it?
Well, you guys as the community and our community team at Gearbox and 2K always do a really good job of running those different types of events and kind of getting that type of stuff out there. We don't really have anything specific to talk about right now.
Yeah.
But with all of the different things that you just mentioned and the stuff that we're bringing to Borderlands 3, you could bet that there will be a few things that you're able to kind of go and do. And like I said, Borderlands 2, the way that we did that, you can expect more of those types of things in the future.
Okay, that's exciting. I'm really, a lot of the talk has always been about community, and it's so exciting to know that there's a lot of conversations being held all over the place for people to kind of look at this community focus and want to build on these events, whatever our minds can possibly come up with and whatever everybody wants to partake in. So it's great to hear that there is a conversation being had on all sides about that.
Yeah, it's really something like that there is such a strong community that cares so much about the game and cares, knows these things, has this knowledge that they dig into and they create their own types of things from it. Like it's really awesome. It's really inspiring to us as developers to make sure that there are the different types of gameplay that will help put that type of stuff on display for you guys.
And it's funny because it's even something as simple as like hide and seek. Who could have thought that would have been such a big thing for Borderlands?
Best idea ever. Very cool. So what effect has the demise of Handsome Jack had on the characters and the overall story? Who is now in charge of Hyperion?
Well,
this is going to be a very measured response.
If you can say.
Take a step back. Go play the new DLC. And then also, there's some things that we talk about in Borderlands 3, but I don't want to spoil anything.
No, it's okay. Don't worry.
That's totally fair.
Believe me, I'm sure everybody appreciates, especially if you're saying, just go play the DLC, your questions will be answered. It's free! So,
But yeah, there's a lot of those things. Like, I want to tell you guys so many things. I can't tell you so many things.
The way I look at it is you will. It's just through your art and not just us having the conversation. And honestly, that's probably the best way we should be enjoying it anyway. But these are right. Questions that these are burning questions. So many people are excited to learn about these things. And it's great to know that they are being addressed. So either way, we're like winning on that side.
Absolutely.
This one, yet another very personal question of mine, because I love her. She is my favorite character of all time. Is there any truth in the hidden message uncovered in Battleborn claiming that we should be wary of Patricia Tannis?
Now, does it say that we should be wary of her?
It says, if I recall correctly, I think the actual term was she's not what she seems or some such. So I interpreted it that way, but I don't know if that was the intention.
She is not what she seems.
Oh, God. You're killing me. Okay. All right. You guys are gonna break my heart when my girl Tannis turns out to be the worst of the worst. Tess, please save me here. I'm actually physically pained right now.
Okay. I have another question. Are there actually 1 billion guns in the game?
There's a whole lot of guns. So the way that we're doing it now, we have the different manufacturers, and each of those manufacturers has different parts that go with the guns that will put us together, and different roles make the guns what you end up seeing and getting to experience. So there are lots and lots and lots of permutations to be able to do that, and it is up around that number. Yes.
That's so cool.
That's absolutely wild.
Really
Because what is it? When Randy came on stage, they said a billion. Like he said, 1 billion guns, and he said this time it's not an exaggeration. And so I definitely wanted to follow up with that specifically. And just to do a follow up question for that we also have. Audio engineering in Borderlands has always been incredibly impressive. The sound quality of the game is always crisp. It's always enjoyable, and weapons feel like they should. There's tons of guns, as they've said. Now you've said that it's the amount of permutations approaching 1 billion guns. So how does a specific sound get chosen for a gun or weapon type, and do you have a personal favorite?
I do have a personal favorite, but the way that these guys do it, I'm sure that you guys, and I certainly know that the community has seen how whenever these guys go and they record some of the Foley stuff, like where you actually see them inside the audio booth and they're crushing glass or breaking wood or something like that. It's whatever it looks like and what it feels like. Mark Petty and that team are really passionate guys that look and see the feel. They want to hit on the manufacturer. They want to hit on the gameplay and kind of make it match those individual things. So one of the things that's actually really, it's kind of mundane, if you will, but the reloading of kind of like one of the single barrel shotguns, it's just like what they use like a golf ball going down a metal rod. So it makes like a thunk noise, for like the grenade launcher. So I really like hearing that every single time.
The sounds are so satisfying. Like it adds so much to the immersion. Yeah, and every single gun, like all of my favorite guns end up being guns that I love the sounds for, but all of the guns, it's crazy how many different sounds there are. They're all unique. That helps make each gun unique. And
right. Are actually real guns. Those guys they've gone a few times. They just went recently, back earlier this year, and went to a firing range and got a bunch of guns and recorded the sounds from it, and did some explosions and recorded the sounds from it. So a lot of the explosions and the sounds that you hear coming from those guns are real bullets and weapons.
That's so awesome.
If I recall correctly, I saw a tweet from somebody on the audio engineering team. And correct me if I'm wrong here, and this time you guys have generated over 45,000 individual sound files for the amount of guns in the game. Is that about right? Yeah,
whenever you get close to that many permutations and that many guns, you kind of have to, right?
That's incredible.
That goes into it, and with the addition of the different guns that we have now, and having all the elements and all of the Atlas weapons being introduced and things like that, they can't sound the same. We want them to have that unique flavor to each individual gun. So those guys do a great job of finding the different things that go into a weapon and kind of bringing it to life on screen.
That is
so cool.
Yeah, I cannot believe that.
Somewhat related to guns, the last question from the community, from the corporation. Will there be a gun-making machine like the grinder from the pre-sequel?
So we don't have a gun making machine, but just due to the point that we were just talking about, there were so many guns that you'll get to experience. You'll get to go back and hit some of these bosses for some of their rare loot. You'll get to go on hunts and crew challenges and different missions to unlock different things. And one of my favorite things now is, if you end up killing an enemy on a ledge or something like that, or you forget a piece of loot, you have the lost loot machine inside Sanctuary 3 so that you can go back and those guns will kind of spit out the ones that you left in some of those maps. So that'll be really fun and an awesome experience for people to have as many of those guns as they can.
Very, very cool.
The grinder system, I appreciated it in the pre-sequel, but to me it always felt like it was kind of against the grain of what you were going for with Borderlands. Because people have asked, will there be some way of manufacturing your own weapon types? And the game didn't seem like that should have been ever the case. It always feels like Borderlands is all about getting out there and shooting guys and getting their guns. And if you got really lucky and you rolled the dice and you hit perfect 20s, you got what you wanted. So to me, it just makes more sense for there to be it being more actively involved with the way of going out there and getting everything.
Well, it's about the loot, right?
Yeah.
And the adventure to get that loot and building that build with the gear that you want. One of the things that I do really like that we have now is the ability to use an in-game mail system to mail your friends different loot and different guns and things like that. So if I find something that's really cool, I can take it, and if you're on my friends list, I can select you and mail it.
I'm sorry, wait, hold on. Real quick, just back up. You just told me I can mail guns to my friends. That's
amazing.
So that's like an evolution on the trade system. That's wild. I had no idea that was being worked on. Wow.
So
oh my God.
There's also, if I see that you've gone and sold guns to a vending machine, there's the opportunity to see that the gun that you sold to the vending machine will pop up in my vending machine as well.
Wow.
That's cool. So a little bit of an economy going there. Very cool.
Wow. Okay. So if that happened,
sort of related to that, a question I get a lot from my community when I stream and that we kind of want to know more about just in general. If you can you give us more details on how the Lost and Found actually works? Are there, what is it going to pick up? Is it everything? Is it going to prioritize rarity or level? What's the maximum number of items it can hold? Are there any loot types that are ignored by that loot Lost and Found?
I don't know the max number. That's one of those other things that we're still trying to tweak and make sure that we get the number right. But it does prioritize based on rarity. So you won't lose a legendary to an uncommon, for example.
Very cool.
That was a big worry of everybody because nobody wants obviously their gun to be lost in the mail, but nobody was really quite sure how everything kind of got sorted out there. Perfect. Excellent. So what light can currently be shed on further stat enhancements in the endgame?
Again, same as the DLC stuff, we were really concentrating on making sure that the main game is polished and good, but there will be some things that you can do after, but we don't have too much to talk about today.
Okay, that's no problem.
Are there any other Vault Hunters currently in development?
No.
Okay.
You're currently trying to stay focused on getting this clean, and then it's like what we talked about before with the ideas going forward for the first 4 DLCs. It's just these right here, and then afterwards we're kind of look where we're at and move from there.
That's right, and the 4 that we have, we really want to build on those, and we just introduced the skill trees and the multiple skill trees rather. So we want to make sure that everyone really enjoys those 4 before we even think about adding to or doing anything like that in the future.
That's honestly, I think that's probably a great strategy. What is it? I want to say Gage came out almost immediately after release, and that was that. I mean, Gage, she has her issues. She's a lot of fun, but ultimately, I feel like, something that comes on down the line, you guys can step back and see what works and what doesn't, and where you can really find a niche for a new character afterwards. That's probably, I enjoy that. That's probably the best way to go about doing it.
Plus, the current 4 are so fleshed out. There's so much more to their skill trees and their stories, and it just seems like overall the game is so much greater in scope, including with each individual character right now, which is so awesome. So,
and I mean, even if we talk about Mose, she has her 3 skill trees, and she has her primary augment. But if you as you develop down the tree, then you can replace the initial one with something else that basically makes it something different. So there's even more depth to being able to do that and expand on her as a character. So there's just a lot to do with each character. So we want to really focus right now and make sure that those 4 feel really good.
That goes back to the hard points again, which immediately I just started smiling like a dummy because that just makes me very happy. And it kind of leads into my next question a little bit, because we're talking about the 4 Vault Hunters. Borderlands is somewhat unique in this genre in that it allows players to jump in the shoes of these not pre-built obviously in terms of skill trees, but these preconceived characters. So you jump in the shoes of Maya, you jump in the shoes of Lilith and Brick and Mordecai, and that's been the storyline of it. Other games in the genre will sometimes allow you to kind of create a custom character from the ground up, and Borderlands has remained firm in a departure from that model and kind of kept us in these roles. Why does Borderlands continue using this model, and what do you perceive are the benefits to having this more, I guess, kind of like a story-informed approach?
Well, I think you hit on it in your previous statement. It kind of gives you more of a personal growth with that character. You come to know and love that character for the story that they have already started on and started to tread. And it allows us to focus on the gameplay and the different aspects of building that particular character.
I feel it's nice to... One of the things that Borderlands the series has always done is they've always taken the time to try different things. And I could cite an example all the way back. Most people probably don't remember or weren't following the series back then, but Borderlands, when it started, had very modernized graphics for that time. It was very realistic looking, and then I don't know what happened along the development process, but somebody somewhere raised an idea and said, hey, what if we just went wacky with it and threw cell shading on everything and just went way, way far away? And so I like that Borderlands continues to try and keep this trend of this is how we're different and we don't care. We're just we're all about being that stark contrast.
That's right, and like I was saying earlier, it's a formula that's worked, and you guys and the community have loved these characters and have grown to they're a part of your lives. We want to continue that type of progression and the type of narrative and build on those characters and through their gameplay and through their experiences in each of the different games that we come out with.
Cool.
I feel like as someone that mained Maya for so long, you definitely develop a favorite and you definitely have a connection with that character because you know their story and you know their background, and you they each have their unique call outs and things that they say as you're playing. And Maya, remember at one point says, I'm really good at this, and I'm like, yeah, it's great. And you just, I don't know, they feel like your sibling or you're a version of yourself, but they're also another person, and you get to know them so well and just love them so well. And I love that connection exists. It's so awesome.
Yeah. You pick up on their mannerisms and the way that they talk and walk around and carry themselves and stuff like that. I love personally Maya's new look in Borderlands 3.
Yes, absolutely amazing.
The first concept, and then I was like, yes, this is really amazing. I can't wait.
You say mannerisms, I can only think of how many times chat has just erupted with, "My shiny meat bicycle!" Krieg especially, chat tends to love very much. So yeah, I completely get, and Mr. Torg, of course, but that's very non-playable. Characters like that tend to garner a lot of love from the community. That's just the way they do it. This next one, so I come from a background, I'm X amount of years old, we'll say. And one of the games I grew up with was Perfect Dark. And Perfect Dark was a game that had secondary function. And I see now we're kind of going into Borderlands 3, and you guys brought this idea. I don't know if it was intentionally, but here it is. Secondary fire's back, and it kind of died for a long time, so I'm really happy to see it here. Where did the inspiration for secondary functionality on weapons come from? And what are some examples of these secondary functionalities that you're like really excited to present to the community?
So Borderlands is about the loot, the adventure, and the shooting, right? The guns are kind of the star of the show, and how do we expand on that? Well, we add new manufacturers, sure. We now have the different elemental types and things like that. But if you add in addition to that another alt firing mode, that's kind of one of the basic things that we have. You guys got to see in the game reveal event, where it goes from a burst fire into a semi-auto shot. On some of the Maliwan guns, you get to see I hit corrosive, or I can hit alt fire and I go to shock. So we see that over a lot of the different weapons and manufacturers. I think my favorite would probably be the Vladov. Jimmy Barnett's going to kill me because I don't know exactly which one. I think it's the assault rifle though, where it's you can shoot it, but then you can also hit the alt fire and it switches into like a triple barrel rapid fire. That's really cool to see. It always reminds me of like the Matrix whenever they're shooting up the building and the helicopters come in and there's a raining and everything in slow motion and the fire is just. I love being able to do that, especially like we have a lot of destruction in this game now, like with all the different elemental barrels and the destroyable cover and things like that in the boxes and stuff. So being able to just wet the battlefield with stuff like that and see everything explode and all of that is really fun.
Very cool. I've gotten a lot of questions about this, and I'm curious myself. So I think it's so incredibly awesome and just speaks to the love that you guys have for the community that plays Borderlands and the understanding that you have of that community. The fact that there are two different co-op modes. So there's classic mode, which works the same way where loot is shared. And then there's the new mode, which is basically instance loot, as I understand it. So how separate are the classic and instance modes? Like, can you freely switch between them with the same character? Is there a difference in the rarity of loot drops in classic versus instanced? And in instanced, can players share loot?
Yeah, so we want to make sure that you're comfortable playing the game, that you're having fun, right? So we have the classic mode where you can go and loot ninja and things like that, but we also have it where it's instanced. So, like we saw in the game reveal event. So if I've been playing for, 3 days straight and you haven't, then you can jump in and we can still hit enemies the same, and you can get loot for you and I can get loot for me and things like that. But yes, you are able to share loot like that across the system. So I can find something if we're playing instance loot and mail it to you.
I was about to say, yeah, you just dropped the whole mail thing, so you're even able to just trade like that. So if somebody got something that's like on their loot list, because I imagine Vault Hunters have like a wish list, but it's just a loot list, and they just go down, I want my double penetrating gun. Oh, okay, cool, I got it. Just like that, yeah. You can tell where my mind's at. I don't think I'm married, so I've got wish lists and registries on my mind. So, but speaking of like guns and things like that, Wraith 287 of the community asks, will we be able to customize the guns and or shields that we find along the way?
So something that we are introducing that's brand new is that I can talk about. There's a couple things that we can do with our guns. We now have global weapon skins. So as you guys have probably seen with some of the pre-order bonuses, let's talk about the gold one specifically.
Mm-hmm.
You get this weapon skin and you attach this. So you have your Jacob's pistol, and you attach the weapon skin to it. Now it's gold. Well, it's not just for the Jacob's pistol. I can attach that skin to any and every gun that I get for the rest of the game, or forever. Because I own that skin.
Yeah.
I also added trinkets, where you can they're just fun things that you pick up through missions or challenges, things like that, that you can attach to it. So, like a little claptrap trinket that's hanging off your gun, just a way to style on people while you're playing and show your friends some of the cool stuff.
It's like a little phone charm, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, we want to make sure that there's a lot of content and things that you guys can get naturally just through playing the game. So that you're going through and getting through these different missions or side missions or completing challenges, you'll unlock weapon skins and these trinkets and things like that allow you to customize your Vault Hunter and some of the gear that we have. Same with heads and skins. We want to make sure that people have that and that it's unlocked through the progression and from you being so invested in the game, playing through it and getting those, spending a lot of time in it that we reward you by giving you little things like that and allowing you to customize your food.
That's so super cool. Exciting. Yeah, that's super exciting.
So the Calypso Twins, incredibly interesting villains. What was the inspiration for their personalities?
Well, we really can't avoid how obvious it is that there's the internet is a thing and that streaming and live play and things like that are really prominent and are really awesome in the game industry right now. And so we came up with a way to kind of have that influence touch their game and those two in particular. It's kind of like a play on them because they're. I mean, I think Randy said it best. They're kind of assholes, right? And take over and unlock all the vaults, and they're killing people in the process and sacrificing everyone. So it came from that. Like a lot of the things that we do are about the culture. You guys in the community, everybody who's watching is played through the games and knows that a lot of the stuff we take a lot of that stuff from the things that you guys like and the things that you guys are really excited about. And a lot of the stuff that's going on with the culture and what's happening in the world around us.
I feel like Handsome Jack was definitely informed with that. At that time, it was like one of the things that people consider like the biggest bad right now is like corporate culture and like big bad CEOs and stuff like that. And now I kind of get it. Like it's a little bit of that toxic streamer culture where sometimes you have that person who's just a smarmy jerk and you just want to like silence them a little bit. But they've got like this mass following too. They said in the trailer 10 billion followers. That's a lot of blood to get through in order to get these guys. Goodness. Let's see. We're running short on time, so I want to make sure that I touch on some things that I know people have really been asked about.
Yeah, for sure.
One I definitely want to get to. What can you tell us about each world and how they kind of contrast from Pandora and each other? Because Pandora is very unique. Obviously, it's not really based on any type of manufacturer. Some, we were running around in the Jacob's homestead, I think we're Eden 6. But Pandora was so brown and bloom, especially in 1 for Borderlands. And now we've got these different things. So what can you kind of tell us about that?
Well, outside of the aesthetic, yeah, the art team really knocked it out of the park. I think you said it best right there. The Pandora, it's a lot of browns and yellows and things like that. And you got to experience Promethea. It's this huge city planet, and there's all kinds of buildings, and it's got this electronica type vibe and futuristic. And on Eden 6, it's more kind of down home southern Louisiana bog swampy type motif that you get. Obviously there's going to be new enemies and new creatures that are part of that planet. Mm-hmm. But I mean, just those three are very different in themselves. You have a desert, this huge metropolitan city, and then kind of a bayou, and the gameplay and the different experiences that you'll have on each of those planets is really cool to look at and really cool to kind of absorb and go through whenever you're playing the game.
I'm very excited for like Maliwan. I've been a big fan of Maliwan as a weapon manufacturer for a long time, so getting to hear that we're like going to run around in the Maliwan city is going to be exciting.
Yeah, those that's probably one of my favorite things, especially the like the flash troopers that we got to see in the Hyperion area. It's kind of reminiscent of like I grew up on games like Super Metroid, so like the speed booster and the effects go behind it whenever they're running back and forth. It's really, really cool. And then they have the elemental stuff, and we have the big mech and things like that we've seen before. So that'll be really cool. And we have some other enemies that we're introducing that we're showing off that are on Eden 6 this week. So really, really exciting and very different.
Cool.
So cool. I love seeing Borderlands versions of all of these different worlds and all of these different manufacturers' worlds. It's so cool to see like different environments, how they're envisioned in like through Borderlands eyes, It's really, really, really neat to see that. We have one last community question. They Call Me Krishna asks, will BL3 have all the same types of rarities as BL2 and the pre-sequel, including the rainbow rarity?
Not all of them. What we have now is what you guys got to experience, the common, uncommon, epic, rare, and legendary. As far as what we do in the future, who knows? But those are the ones that we're doing right now whenever the game releases.
That sounds about right in line with what Borderlands 2 was, because Pearlescent didn't come out for some time, and obviously now we have Efflorescence, which is kind of the love letter, if you will, which is super neat too. But as we go along, I'm sure you guys will put some cool stuff our way.
And that stuff comes from inspiration from you guys. Like the more that you guys play and the louder that you are, we think about that stuff. We care a lot about what the community says and what the community is. You guys are investing your time in this. You're investing your lives into this experience, and our goal is to entertain the world and to entertaining you guys. A lot of that comes from the feedback that you guys give us. So, if people have really strong feelings and really enjoy a certain game type whenever it comes out or certain gameplay and doing those different things, then we'll look at it and see what we can do.
We have time for one more question, so I'm just going to get this one in here real quick. I have to ask, what was the inspiration for Moses' character?
I think a lot of it was kind of that classic tank girl, right? So she is this awesome gunner character. She's kind of like a soldier, and then she has her companion, this Iron Bear is what we call him, mech that you can destruct and come into the battlefield and just wreak havoc anytime that you want to. So there's a couple genres mixed there, but I think it fits great into the Borderlands universe.
Awesome. Like I said, watching her a little while ago with the actual reveal, it was we're like encapsulated, and then going through her skill tree, Tess and I have just been like, oh wow, that's a thing. Oh wow, that's a thing. That's cool. So
there's
your teammates being able to your teammates being able to jump on you like onto your mech and hang out and shoot from there. That is insanely awesome.
Yeah, that's a real thing. There's so many different ways to augment and modify through these different skill trees that there will be a Vault Hunter and a different playstyle. Like for every person, like your Mose is not going to be the same as my Mose, is not going to be the same as the next person's Mose, and that's really awesome. That's really exciting because you'll get to look and see. It's like, oh, I didn't think about this crazy combination. I'm going to go try that. I'm going to go check that out. I think the one of the best places for that is using the Twitch extension that people get to see at the gameplay reveal event. You get to watch you guys playing the game and going through those experiences, and then kind of look at it and click on the player card and say, what are they actually running through, and see exactly what it is, and then you get to go try it yourself. So that'll be really exciting to be able to do too.
Yeah, that extension's amazing.
It
amazing.
is. It
Both
is.
as a streamer and a viewer, it's a gift.
Yeah,
And
the Twitch guys and Scott Velasquez, everyone, they did a really good job of that, and it feels really cool to be able to come out with something like that. And Borderlands is a great game for that to be able to be used in.
It's the extension is something I wish we had more time to talk about today. I have so many more questions. We could have done another hour with this interview, but I don't want to take up any more of your time because it is extremely valuable, and you are very hard at work doing all of these things that we love and appreciate. Anthony, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with Teths and I. It has been a genuine honor and pleasure. You've revealed some things that we didn't know, and you have enlightened us about a lot of things that we were really having burning questions for. Thank you so much again on behalf of myself, the stream team, and the entire community.
Thank you guys very much for having me. Yeah, like we're busy doing stuff. We're finishing the game. We want to make sure that it's something that we're proud of and that you guys really love. But taking the time to hang out with you guys and to be in the Discord and talking with you all is really an honor for us. So, whenever we're able to, please let us know.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We hugely appreciate it so much. It's so awesome to get to do this with you guys.
Thank you, bud. Have a great E3. It was good talking with you.
You guys too. See ya.